For centuries, we've been educated to believe that security is synonymous with possession. From an early age, we hear the same words echoing like a family mantra. Buy a property. Invest in something concrete. That's what will make you stable and secure. This phrase has crossed generations like an emotional inheritance, shaping not only families' economic behavior, but also the way we understand the value of life itself. For many, owning a home has become more than a financial act. It has become an unconscious symbol of belonging, a shield against the fear of impermanence. But what happens when what we call security begins to imprison rather than protect? Carl Jung said that the collective unconscious shapes the beliefs we repeat without question. He believed that many of our most rational decisions are actually born from invisible impulses, from ancient fears disguised as proof. The dream of owning a home, for example, is an archetypal reflection of the desire for shelter, the protective instinct inherited from ancestors who needed caves to survive. However, the world has changed, and the concrete caves we've built around ourselves no longer protect. They merely anchor us in a way of life that time is dissolving. What was once a symbol of stability has now become a burden for many. Decades, financing, rising interest rates, bureaucracy, and the illusion that property is a safe haven, when in fact it is an anchor. Jung taught that the human psyche is driven by opposites, and that true growth arises from the conflict between them. Stability, when idolized, turns into stagnation. The search for security, when exaggerated, becomes fear disguised as wisdom. We live in an age in which matter has lost its absolute symbolic power. Concrete, once synonymous with power, has given way to the intangible information, connections, consciousness. Money, which once represented metal and paper, is now a digital flow, abstract symbol that circulates through the web. And perhaps the safest investment is no longer the one you can touch, but the one that can grow even when you can't see it. The old paradigm still dominates the collective mind. The middle class continues to believe that the path to freedom is to pay off a house in 30 years, as if time were a fair price for the feeling of belonging. It's an emotional narrative, not a financial one. It's the promise of rest in a world in constant flux. But, in the Jungian view, every exaggerated attachment is a form of shadow, the unconscious part that fears the new and seeks to hide behind the. This is why many live trapped in a predictable routine, sacrificing vital energy in exchange for an illusory sense of security. The house, steady paycheck, same commute, same days. And what they call stability may just be the most comfortable prison the unconscious has ever built. Jung said that when a symbol loses its transformative power, it becomes a lie. The symbol of the home has lost some of its power because the outside world no longer reflects the same inner world of our ancestors. Today, the most valuable space is not physical, but mental. The true investment is that which expands along with consciousness. The richest people don't just seek to multiply their money, they multiply their time, their freedom, and the scope of their own creation. They don't depend on walls, but on ideas. They don't accumulate things, they build systems. They understood what Jung called the principle of individuation, process of becoming who one truly is, freeing oneself from collective expectations to follow one's inner calling. Think about how many times you've longed for freedom but used the word security to justify your lack of movement. How many opportunities have you failed to explore because the unknown seemed too risky? Jung said that nothing is more dangerous than avoiding risk in the name of security, because that's how the unconscious takes control of life. We don't choose consciously, fate chooses for us. This is the moment when safe becomes conformity and prudence becomes. Perhaps the greatest trap of the modern mind is confusing stability with fulfillment. Money, like the psyche, is energy, and energy needs to flow to exist. When you tie it to something fixed, it slowly dies, just as repressed emotions transform into eddy. Flow is what generates life, and in Jung's symbolic universe, movement is always the path to transformation. The wealthy who understand this don't cling to rigid structures. They invest in living, breathing assets that multiply, adapt. They seek what Jung would call the living process, unconscious, the state where everything changes and nothing is static. They don't buy real estate, they build realities. They don't accumulate, they create. They don't measure value by weight, by expansion. The contemporary crisis is not just economic, it is spiritual. Many continue to try to fill an internal void with external possession. But, as Jung warned, no external symbol can replace inner. True security is not born of possession, but of awareness. What protects human beings is not walls, but clarity. When you understand yourself, nothing external has the power to imprison you. And when the world changes, you change with it. Instead of resisting, evolve. Perhaps this is the point at which humanity needs to look inward once again. It's not money that has changed. It's the mind that is awakened. The structures that once supported society now tremble before the speed of information and the expansion of consciousness. The collective unconscious is mutating. Old symbols are losing their shape. Success is no longer an state of mind. Freedom is no longer geographic, psychological. The wisest investment is no longer it's the fertile ground of the mind itself. When Jung spoke of individuation, he referred to a journey of integration, uniting the conscious and the unconscious, the visible and the invisible, what one has and what one is. True wealth arises from this balance. And just as the mind evolves, the way we create value must also evolve. It is not enough to repeat the steps of those who lived in another time. The person who wishes to prosper today must learn to think as a creator, not as an inheritor of the past. They must heed the silent call of the unconscious, the one that whispers that everything fixed is destined to crumble, everything alive is destined to grow. The financial world is merely a mirror of the inner world. The reflection it shows is clear. Those who remain attached to the old myth of security remain trapped in the illusion of control. Those who dare to look beyond, those who understand that risk is the language of transformation, discover the power of the visible. Jung said that man does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making darkness conscious. Perhaps this is the new path for money, bringing to light what has always been unconscious, understanding what truly moves it, and transforming the relationship with it into an expression of consciousness itself. The most important investment, therefore, is not in a piece of land, but in the inner territory. It is there that ideas that can generate real abundance are born, insights that become systems, creations that multiply on their own. It is the soil of the mind that needs to be cultivated. Every thought is a seed. Every conscious action, cycle that renews itself. And when this fertile land is cared for, the fruits do not depend on chance. They flourish by natural law. The old advice still echoes: buy a property, secure your future. But the new world responds silently: create something living, and the future will secure itself. Jung taught us that modern man will only find meaning when he transforms the external world into a reflection of his own soul. The economy, then, will become merely a mirror of the psyche, and freedom will cease to be a distant promise and become a daily experience of expanded consciousness. Will you continue to protect what is solid even if it keeps you trapped? Or are you ready to invest in what is invisible, changeable, and infinitely more powerful? Because the first step to financial and spiritual freedom is not buying something. Understand that true security lies not in possessing, but in knowing how to create. Understand that a man's value lies not in the keys he holds, but in the doors he can open within himself. There's a moment in life when everything seems to follow the same script. Wake up, work, pay bills, try to save a little, and believe that one day, with luck, freedom will arrive. It's an almost hypnotic routine, so common it becomes invisible. People live within it without realizing they're trapped in a repeating cycle, while time silently slips through their fingers. This is exactly what Carl Jung wrote about when he explained that humankind's greatest prison isn't made of but of unconscious habits that keep them from creative potential. According to him, modern humans live surrounded by systems that make them believe they're in control, when in fact they're just reacting to an inherited mental model. It's this model that turns work into survival and creativity into risk. But there are moments when something breaks the pattern. Spark, a sudden insight, an intuition that can no longer be ignored. And it's at this point that the true creator is born. Imagine an ordinary person, someone who works 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours a day. They pay their bills, struggle with the constant feeling of being behind on everything, and occasionally dream of the day when they wish anymore. At night, they sit down tired and open their phone. Between one notification and another, they see a video of someone who apparently makes a living from an online business, traveling and making money while they sleep. The immediate reaction is disbelief. This must be a lie. No one lives like that. But something, deep down, awakens. It's not envy, it's curiosity. What if it's true? This simple question is the beginning of a journey of consciousness, the point where the unconscious begins to push the ego out of its comfort zone. Jung would call this the moment of inner calling, when the self, the center of the psyche, begins to guide the individual toward a path of individuation, of reconnection with their creative purpose. In the digital world, this calling manifests itself differently. It's the recognition that knowledge, experience, and the individual voice also have value. What once depended on physical structures, buildings, machines, inventory, can now arise from a simple insight, a skill, or personal learning. Creating a scalable digital business is, in essence, shaping what you carry inside and allowing the world to benefit from it, even when you're not present. It's transforming what you know into something that generates continuous value. Online course on your expertise, an ebook sharing what you've learned, a mentorship, a set of videos, a channel, a community. The format doesn't matter. What matters is the flow, the energy that moves. Jung believed that all genuine creation arises from a tension between opposites. The conscious mind desires security, but the unconscious seeks expansion. That's why in the beginning, fear always arises. Fear of failure, of exposure, of judgment. It's the same fear that makes so many give up before they begin. But the paradox is that fear is the very sign that you're on the right path. It arises when the ego tries to protect the familiar territory, soul silently demands both. Resistance is a symptom of the birth of something new. Transformation begins exactly where discomfort arises. There are real stories that illustrate this process. A teacher, tired of the routine, decides to record videos explaining math in simple terms. First, no one watches, but he keeps going. A month, 6 months, a year. Little by little, his videos begin to be shared. Students he'd never met begin to thank him. The channel grows. Today, he teaches millions without needing to be. Another example, a seamstress who begins recording tutorials on mending and embroidery. Hands that once worked in silence now touch people on the other side of the world. She creates a course, sells online, transforms her art into freedom. None of them had a company, a team, or a sophisticated marketing plan. They had only one thing, the courage to start. Jung would say that these people tapped into the power of the creative unconscious, the source of energy that moves all living things. When you act from this source, the world responds. A kind of synchronicity begins to happen. The right people appear, opportunities align, and what seemed impossible becomes natural. This isn't magic, it's depth psychology. Reality begins to reflect one's inner state. What was once chaos becomes order. What was once effort becomes flow. But there's something even more fascinating. These digital businesses know no borders. They break the paradigm of space. A video recorded in an afternoon can continue to generate revenue for years. A product created once can reach thousands, even millions, without needing to be edited. The mind that understands this discovers what Jung would call the symbolic nature of the real. The power to create something that continues to live even when the creator is gone. It is the archetype of the creator in its purest form. Not that which accumulates, but that which manifests. However, not everyone is ready to accept this idea. The collective unconscious still whispers that it's too risky, that the right thing is a steady job, a predictable salary, and constant effort. But predictability is fear's most elegant disguise. It's the echo of the past, trying to survive in a world that has already changed. The new wealth lies not in what is fixed, but in what is expansive. Not in what repeats itself, but in what evolves. And the mind that doesn't open itself to this inevitably falls behind. The curious thing is that many who make a living from digital businesses didn't start with money. They started with a question, a doubt, a curiosity, a desire to share something they knew. What set them apart was their mindset, the same one Jung describes as the attitude of the creative unconscious, which doesn't wait for the ideal, but begins possible. It's an act of rational faith. You don't see the result, but you feel the direction. Direction is what matters. Ultimately, creating a digital business is a spiritual exercise disguised as an entrepreneurial venture. It's the act of looking within and transforming the invisible into something that generates impact. It's learning to trust your own voice, to give structure to what was once just a thought. It's the moment when the mind stops being a consumer. And Jung believed that each person carries within them a spark of the divine, force capable of creating worlds, healing, connecting, transforming. When this force is awakened, work ceases to be a mere means of survival and becomes an expression of the soul. There's something profoundly liberating, understanding that value no longer needs to be limited by physical. Time ceases to be an enemy and becomes an ally. You can be asleep and what you've built continues to expand. It's the return of what Jung called psychic equilibrium, the moment when external action and internal purpose finally align. Money, then, ceases to be an end and becomes a symbol, again the tangible reflection of creative energy set in motion. But all true creation requires navigating uncertainty. The creator's path is not one of haste, constancy. Jung said that transformation doesn't happen in leaps and bounds, layers. Each layer brings a new revelation. Same is true for the modern entrepreneur. It's not about a viral video or miraculous launch. It's about building presence, developing authenticity, and cultivating patience. It's about growing from the inside out. Ultimately, the turning point comes when the individual realizes they are not just creating a business, but recreating themselves. The process of digital entrepreneurship is the exact mirror of the process of individuation. First chaos, then learning, then integration. Those who dare to begin, even without knowing what will come, awaken the creator archetype that has always been dormant. And when it awakens, nothing is ever the same again. The mind that once saw work as an obligation now sees it as an expression. The fear that once paralyzed now becomes fuel. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Jung would say that the unconscious has found a new channel to manifest itself, and that, by creating something that grows by itself, man finally learns to cooperate with life rather than fight against it. And so arises the question that divides those who live in the old world and those awakening to the new. Will you continue trying to buy freedom with the sweat of your brow, or will you begin to create it with the strength of your mind? Because, in the end, the greatest company anyone can build is one that begins from within, where every idea is a brick, every action is a foundation, and every insight is a new floor in the invisible edifice of consciousness. The human voice has always sought an echo. Since the time when humans painted in caves, the desire has been the same, to leave a mark that transcends the moment itself. Now, for the first time in history, this echo no longer depends on the distance between mountains or the reach of a campfire. It spreads at the speed of light. A video, a sound, an idea, everything can cross borders, languages, and cultures. Jung would say that this is not just a technological revolution, but an expansion of the collective psyche. The unconscious has found new channels to express itself. Every word released online is a seed planted in the invisible soil of the globe. And those who understand this realize that an automated content channel is not just a business. It is a bridge between the individual conscious and the unconscious of the world. Imagine a creator who records a video today and, without realizing it, reaches a person on another continent 5 years from now. He sleeps, but his creation lives on, stirring ideas, awakening feelings, changing paths of thought. Jung would call this symbolic energy, the power of a form to carry meaning beyond itself. True content is not just information, it is a symbol, and symbols do not die. They transcend time because they speak directly to the soul. The artist who records a song, the teacher who explains a concept, storyteller who shares an experience, all participate in this same invisible movement, expanding. But there's a subtle difference between the common creator and the awakened creator. The former creates to be seen, the latter creates to express. One seeks validation, the other seeks meaning. And that's where the game changes. Content born of the ego dies quickly. What arises from the self, the center of the psyche, where inner truth resides, continues to grow even in the creator's absence. It's as if life itself adopts it and multiplies it. Perhaps this is why anonymous channels thrive, faceless voices gain strength, and ownerless ideas become movements. Authenticity, when real, needs no introduction. What if the true purpose of creating wasn't to be recognized, but to recognize self? How many times have you felt that something inside you wanted to be expressed, but reason silenced it? How many ideas were born and died before reaching them? Jung said that everything repressed returns with force. The ideas you don't express become symptoms, frustrations, concerns. They demand to be released. Creating content is, in a way, a modern form of therapy. It's giving voice to that which, if kept bottled up, would end up corroding inside. There's a quiet energy in setting the invisible in motion. A text posted at the right time can heal someone you'll never. A shared story can change the course of a life. None of this happens by chance. Jung would call it synchronicity, a meaningful encounter between seemingly disconnected events. The collective psyche responds when someone expresses themselves truthfully. The universe seems to conspire, but in reality, it merely reflects the natural flow between inner. To create, therefore, to align oneself with movement. However, there's a subtle danger in this new era of expression, the illusion of exposure. Many believe that visibility is power, but they forget that real power comes from coherence. Appearance isn't enough. Have to resonate, and resonating requires depth. Audiences may forget your name, but they will never forget the content that survives is the one that touches something the viewer already felt but couldn't name. The creator's role isn't to teach something new, it's to awaken the forgotten. What if every video were a modern form of dream? Jung described dreams as messages from the conscious, living metaphors trying to communicate something to the conscious. In the digital age, content fulfills a similar role. They are fragments of the soul in the form of image and sound, attempting to dialogue with the collective mind. When a creator speaks authentically, it's not just them speaking, it's the psyche itself expressing itself through them. And when thousands listen, it's not just an audience, recognition. the collective soul seeing itself reflected. But not everyone is ready to bear the weight of their own. Creating something true is to face the mirror. It's inevitable to encounter one's own shadow, the part of us that fears failure, rejection, and criticism. Every creator carries a conflict, the desire to be seen and the fear of exposure. It's the same conflict Jung identified in the process of individuation, integrating light and shadow, accepting oneself fully to finally become whole. With each video, text, or speech, the creator reveals themselves, and the more they reveal themselves, the freer they become. The curious thing is that digital systems amplify not only voices, but also unconscious patterns. The algorithm is not just a machine, it is a mirror of the collective unconscious. It rewards what is repeated, reinforces what is desired, and ignores what is repressed. And perhaps without realizing it, we are facing a symbolic manifestation of the global unconscious itself. Creating, then, is not just producing. It is learning to dialogue with this invisible intelligence that observes, reacts, and shapes behaviors. Those who understand this stop fighting the system and start dancing with it. How many people have you heard say that algorithms don't help? What if the problem wasn't the algorithm, but the lack of soul in what's produced? The unconscious responds to truth. The machine only amplifies what vibrates with authenticity. Therefore, the content that grows the most isn't the most technical, but the most human. Emotion is still the universal language. There's also a quiet revolution happening. Channels that teach, heal, question, inspire. Each one is like a beacon shining amidst the informational fog. The collective mind is hungry for meaning, and whoever can offer clarity becomes a guide. But there's a difference between guiding and controlling. Jung warned that a true teacher never holds anyone back, only points the way inward. The same goes for those who create content. Their role isn't to be followed. It's to awaken in each person the desire to search for themselves. In a world saturated with information, value lies in wisdom. And wisdom isn't about accumulating data, it's about knowing what to keep silent. A mature creator understands that not every answer needs given, not every truth needs to be spoken and just felt. Deep communication arises from the space between words, from the pause that invites reflection. When someone feels rather than just hears, the message becomes experience. What if the internet is humanity's new unconscious? An ocean where thoughts intersect, ideas collide, and symbols reorganize. In this digital sea, each creator is a fisherman of meaning, casting invisible nets to capture fragments of the collective. Sometimes it brings light, other times shadow. But everything that emerges from it is raw material for awakening. Creating a channel, content, narrative is much more than just entrepreneurship. It's participating in the expansion of human consciousness. It's allowing the unconscious to speak through your voice. It's understanding that behind every like, comment, or view lies a touched mind, soul recognizing. Jung said that the man who looks outward dreams, but the one who looks inward awakens. And perhaps this is what the true creator does. They awaken the world by awakening within themselves what has always been dormant. So the question remains simple and inescapable. Are you creating to survive or to exist? Because every time your voice touches someone, the entire universe expands a little more. There's something deeply fascinating about the idea of creating something once and being rewarded for it for years to come. Humanity has always pursued this dream, the search for the work that stands on its own. The creation that becomes autonomous, the idea that lives on even when the creator remains silent. Carl Jung would call this the archetype of the eternal, the psyche's attempt to touch immortality through form. When an artist composes a song, an inventor files a patent, or a writer publishes a book, they are, in effect, obeying this ancient impulse to give life to that which transcends them. It's as if each creation were an attempt to dialogue with time. Money, in this context, becomes merely the physical echo of something spiritual, the recognition that what was created continues to serve, to heal, to teach. Think of J.K. Rowling. She wrote a universe, literally, for years. She was rejected by publishers and struggled financially, but she kept writing because an inner voice insisted on existing. When Harry Potter was finally published, the book transcended print and became a global symbol, spawning films, merchandise, games, and even with each new adaptation, royalties continue to be paid. Decades later, the original text still bears fruit. Jung would say this happens because the creation was born from archetypal content, the orphaned hero, the journey of self-discovery, the confrontation of the shadow. elements so profoundly human that they don't age. The collective unconscious recognizes these stories because they speak of themselves. Therefore, they continue to produce meaning and richness. But this power doesn't belong solely to the big names. The logic of royalties is everywhere. A programmer who creates useful software and licenses it to companies. A photographer who sells images in digital databases and receives a fee for each download. A designer who creates a set of icons and makes them available on commercial platforms. Each time someone uses the work, a small amount returns to the creator. It's the symbolic return on the inner. Jung said that everything man creates consciously releases a corresponding unconscious. The law of royalties is the economic manifestation of this. There's something mysterious about the way these creations spread. A song composed in a bedroom can touch millions of people the author will never meet. A phrase written by someone 100 years ago can transform someone's life. It's as if the collective unconscious stores and distributes content of symbolic value without asking. And, curiously, the financial world seems to have adapted to this psychic dynamic. The concept of intellectual property is the legal translation of what Jung would call symbolic inheritance, the right of each individual to reap the fruits of what they created, even as time passes and its form changes. But there's something even more curious. Many of those who became wealthy through ideas, not physical assets, started with little or no resources. What set them apart wasn't their initial capital, but their ability to perceive the invisible before it became evident. Jung believed that intuition is the highest of psychic functions, connecting the individual to what doesn't yet exist but is about to emerge. This is how great inventors, artists, and investors operate. They see it before everyone else. And the market, as a reflection of the collective psyche, rewards those who have the courage to act. Perception. The same principle governs another type of wealth, dividend-paying stocks. For many, they're just numbers, but for those who observe them from a symbolic perspective, they represent a new form of alliance between creator and creation. By buying a share, you become part of a company's history. You don't need to be in charge to participate in the flow. Jung would see this as a modern expression of the community archetype, the unconscious desire to belong to something great. When a company makes a profit and distributes dividends, it is, in a sense, returning energy to those who believe. It's a sophisticated form of reciprocity. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors in history, understood this better than anyone. He never built buildings or founded a giant factory. His empire was born of patience and the perception of invisible patterns. He bought small pieces of big ideas and held them for decades. While others sought quick gains, he cultivated time. Jung said the unconscious is slow, but infallible. Same is true for true investing. It depends not on impulses, but on understanding. Buffett transformed patience into a form of emotional intelligence applied to money. The secret was not predicting the future, but trusting in what was already mature enough to grow on its own. These actions, called dividends, are the financial equivalent, symbolic return on a good idea. You invest once, and repeatedly. It's the same principle as royalties applied to the corporate world. Interestingly, both require the same kind of faith in the invisible, in continuity, in creation that throws own. The traditional worker is paid by the hour. The creator and the investor are paid by permanence. The former sells time. The latter creates systems that multiply time. What if the true purpose of investing wasn't to accumulate but to participate? What if each share purchased was, in fact, a vote of confidence in the human power to continue creating, innovating, and evolving? Jung would say that modern man has lost touch with the sacredness of work. He has forgotten that every creative gesture is a silent prayer to the universal. When you invest in something that produces value for the world, you are, in a way, participating in the same principle that drives nature, that of organic growth. Harmonious expansion. Profit in this context simply a sign that energy circulates freely. There's another side to this story. Just as there are creations that generate value, there are those that drain it. Ideas without a soul, products without purpose, companies that exist only to consume. Jung called this ego inflation, and humans create not to serve, but to dominate. These systems eventually collapse because they lose their symbolic connection to the collective unconscious. Public senses when something is empty. The collective psyche reacts with indifference, and the flow ceases. This is why businesses and creations devoid of truth disappear, even if they seem promising at first. The unconscious rejects what lacks essence. There are also unlikely stories that reveal how chance or synchronicity, in Jung's terms, intervenes in the financial destiny of the with purpose. In 1982, British singer Rod Stewart recorded a song called Baby Jane. Decades later, a South Korean DJ remixed the chorus and posted the result online. The video went viral, and royalties were once again paid to the original author, more than 30 years after release. Time hasn't erased the value, it's simply hidden it until the collective is ready to rediscover it. Creation has slept, but it hasn't died. It's as if the unconscious has been waiting for the right moment to return the echo. These phenomena show that the financial world is less rational than it seems. It responds to psychic principles, not just numbers. The value of something lies not only in its utility, but in the symbolic energy it carries. And a book, an idea, all function, modern archetypes, emotions, memories, and desires. This is why a logo can be worth billions, even just a drawing. Concentrates unconscious meanings that people project and recognize. Jung would explain this as the power of the collective symbol, an energetic field that unites the individual to the mass through emotion. Ultimately, both royalties and dividends remind us of an essential truth. Whatever is created consciously multiplies. The difference is that the modern world has translated this spiritual principle into economic language. Money, in this case, is merely the visible translation of invisible energy in motion. It flows toward where there is purpose and away from where there is emptiness. Then arises the question that separates creators from repeaters. Does what you are building continue to exist when you stop? This is the true measure of freedom. If your income depends on your constant presence, you are part of the system. But if what you created continues to bear fruit, you are the system. Jung said that man does not own what he creates, but is possessed by what. When your creation lives alone, you finally understand what it means to leave a mark on the collective unconscious. Ultimately, true wealth is not about accumulating possessions, but about participating in the flow of life. The creator, the investor, and the thinker are faces of the same archetype, the sower. They throw something into the world and trust in time. Some reap quickly, others merely leave a legacy, but all, in some way, touch eternity. And if there's one thing Jung taught us, it's that what is born of the soul is never lost. It changes form. There comes a point in every creator's journey where the urge to expand mingles with the fear of losing. The desire for freedom grows, but with it comes the question, how far can you go before everything falls apart? Carl Jung said that the human psyche lives in constant tension between the known and the unknown, between structure and chaos. It is from this tension that transformation is born. The same is true for those seeking to build wealth consciously. After learning to create something that generates value on its own, it's time to understand the next step, the moment to let what was created grow without you. And this is where the true test of the creative mind arises. Startups are the perfect mirror of the transition. They begin small, fragile, almost invisible, but they carry within them a strength that the world still doesn't. Jung would call this the archetype of birth, the moment when something new tries to emerge from the chaos. Birth, however, is never smooth. It's made of pain, risk, and resistance. Every great company today was once a jumble of uncertain ideas, sustained by people who believed when no one else did. These people saw beyond the present. They saw the invisible potential that slept beneath the surface. Imagine the beginnings of a company like Elon Musk's, when Tesla was still just an unlikely project, with electric cars that few believed could compete with industry giants. The atmosphere was one of total disbelief. Critics said the model was unviable. Investors fled. Engineers gave up. Something invisible kept moving. Jung would call it the voice of the self, the inner force that pushes an individual toward their purpose, even if it means facing ridicule, failure, and loneliness. The same principle drives anyone who decides to bet on something that doesn't yet exist but feels it needs to. The tension between doubt and faith is the fuel of creation. Startups thrive on this. Ideas that fight against logic until they prove intuition right. And when they win, the whole world changes. What was once a risk becomes a reference. What was once madness becomes a revolution. This is the power of conscious patience, the ability to sustain the invisible until it becomes visible. Jung said that the human soul reveals itself in time, and time is the greatest ally of those who believe in the process. But there's a paradox here. Most people want quick results. They plant, and before the seed germinates, they dig up the soil to see if anything's growing. The fear of waiting destroys the cycle of creation. That's why few thrive in this. Patience isn't passivity, it's active trust. It's the state in which the creator maintains focus on purpose even without guarantee. The startups that changed the world from simple apps to digital empires were born from this mindset. They were built by people who understood that the mind, like the business, must learn to sustain the unknown. What if everything went wrong? This is the question that paralyzes most. Jung would answer, then you will discover who you truly are. Failure is the dark side of individuation. It is a confrontation with the limits of the ego. Every mistake, every loss, every new beginning is a symbolic descent into the unconscious, an opportunity to reorganize. Many give up at this point. Those who cross the abyss were stronger, more lucid, more complete. The creator who survives failure learns to recognize the natural rhythm of things: creation, fall, and rebirth. From this same principle of continuity, another type of asset emerges: recurring revenue products. They function as self-breathing systems, software, a digital subscription, a service that offers constant value in exchange for a monthly contribution. It's the living cycle of balanced exchange. The customer pays because they feel the benefit remains. The creator receives because they've learned to sustain the flow. It's a symbiotic relationship that reflects the balance between giving and receiving, so championed by Jung as an essential part of the human psyche. Companies like Netflix, Spotify, Canva are modern examples of this. They don't sell a single product, but an ongoing experience. They create a lasting relationship. A subscription, in this context, is more than a payment. It's a vote of confidence. It's proof that the value delivered has become indispensable. And the most fascinating thing, that anyone can adopt this model, even on a smaller scale. A teacher who offers monthly mentorships, a therapist who provides exclusive content, a creator who offers access to a learning community. The secret is to build something people want to keep, not just buy. There's a little-known story about the beginning of one of these services. A freelance programmer, tired of repetitive work, decided to create a small tool for scheduling online meetings. Simple, straightforward, and without grand ambition. He published the app and forgot about it for a while. Months later, when checking the reports, he discovered that hundreds of people had started using his tool. The number grew every day. He didn't have to do anything else, just fix details and keep the system running. Today, the service generates thousands of dollars a month, and he only dedicates a few hours a week to maintenance. He created something that works for him. This is the most transformative point of this entire journey. When human beings realize they can build systems that liberate them, rather than imprison them, work ceases to be a direct exchange of time for money and becomes an extension. Jung said that true freedom arises when a person masters their own creative energy, not when they run away. Creating a product with recurring revenue is exactly that, transforming concentrated effort into a continuous flow. But not everything is predictable. There are times when the system collapses, and the creator is forced to revise everything they've built. Failure, a fall, a rupture. And that's when learning becomes definitive. When everything seems to be falling apart, the self reorganizes the path. A crisis reveals what is essential. Those who understand this don't despair. They observe, adjust, and start over. Each collapse is an opportunity to simplify, to make the system leaner and smarter. Ultimately, this entire process mirrors what happens inside the mind itself. The conscious creator, the patient investor, the system builder are metaphors for the psyche trying to organize it. The recurring income stream is a reflection of the stream of consciousness, constant, self-sustaining, and dynamic. When money stops being a struggle and becomes a natural rhythm, one finally understands that it is not the world that must be controlled, but one's own inner energy. The turning point comes when we realize that financial freedom is just the surface of something much deeper, the freedom to be. It's the moment when consciousness awakens and understands that work, time, and money are different expressions of the same creative force. And when this force is aligned with purpose, result is inevitable. Growth happens, not by luck, by synchronization. In the next step of this journey, the creator discovers the power of bringing people together, of building communities that are fueled by purpose and expand together. But before getting there, one final question lingers, like a silent challenge. Will what you are creating right now continue to exist when you are? Because it is there, and only there, that the true meaning of wealth begins. Everything discussed so far converges on the same point. True freedom lies not in what you possess, but in how you create. Carl Jung said that the human soul yearns for wholeness, and that every external search is, at its core, an attempt to recover something lost within us. When we talk about assets, digital businesses, royalties, startups, or communities, we are talking about external reflections of the same internal principle, the creative impulse. Money is merely the physical echo of this movement. It is the natural result of a mind that has learned to transform intention into structure, consciousness, action. And this is where it all fits together. What you do in the world is the most visible expression of what you believe yourself to be. What you create reveals what you have understood. Think about everything that brought you to this moment. Every doubt, every fall, every failed attempt. None of it was wasted. Jung reminded us that the unconscious uses our stumbles to guide us back to our center. Failure, it reveals, still awake. When you learn to see failure not as an enemy, but as symbolic language, life begins to speak to you differently. Chaos becomes a silent teacher. Fear, a guardian that protects the portal of transformation. And each time you cross one of these portals, you discover that true progress is not about accumulating, but about integrating, uniting who you are with what you do. The modern world has taught people to seek quick results, but has forgotten to teach them how to sustain deep processes. This is why many give up before seeing the fruit. Creating something lasting, be it a company, a community, a channel, a system, or an idea, requires a shift in mindset, shift from haste to presence. Money that flows steadily is only the visible form of a stable inner energy. A scattered mind creates fleeting gain. A focused and patient mind builds systems that multiply even in the absence of the creator. This is the difference between the worker and the builder, between the consumer and the creator, between the reactant and the manifest. Now imagine applying this to your own life. You don't have to start with much or with everything. You need to start with awareness. Choose an idea, a skill, a piece of knowledge, something you master or it inspires you. Give it form. Record it. Write it down. Share it. Build it. Create something that charges your energy, puts it out into the world. It doesn't matter if you see it at first. The universe doesn't reward haste, but persistent intention. It's purposeful repetition that shapes reality. With each attempt, you become clearer. With each creation, more complete. The more you create, the less you depend on chance. You can start a small digital project, a simple product, a content channel, a learning community. You can develop something that works while you sleep. You can create systems that deliver real value and, in turn, generate a return. What matters is that the energy that leaves you returns multiplied, not just in money, but in impact. Jung said that everything authentic transforms into a creative force. It's impossible to produce something true and not touch the world in some way. So, start. The secret was never in resources, but in clarity. Perhaps the biggest obstacle isn't the lack of time or money, but the fear of being seen. The fear of making mistakes in public, of not being understood, of being judged. But what the world really needs isn't perfection, but presence. The public doesn't connect with what's impeccable, but with what's true. Vulnerability is a form of courage. Showing who you are, honestly, is the greatest act of power there is. Jung said that the man who looks outward dreams, but the one who looks inward awakens. And it is in this awakening that lies the beginning of true independence. As you grow, you will realize that freedom is not the absence of responsibility, but mastery over your own creations. The systems you build, financial, emotional, creative, reflect the level of inner order you have achieved. If there is chaos within, there will be chaos without. If there is clarity within, everything around you begins to align. Therefore, the first asset you must invest in, your own consciousness. No business, channel, or project flourishes. Mind is fragmented. External success is a consequence. Integrated psyche. Integration is not a donation. It is a daily exercise in self-knowledge. There comes an inevitable moment when the creator understands that he is no longer just building a business, but a mirror. Everything he creates reveals him. Everything he manages shapes him. Every decision is a conversation between the ego and the unconscious. And the more awareness he brings to the process, lighter the weight of life becomes. True wealth at that point ceases to be a goal and becomes a state. It is the serenity of knowing that what you have built will continue to grow, even when you rest. That your presence in the world has ceased to be temporary, becomes symbolic. And if, at this moment, you still feel doubt, fear, or confusion, understand, everyone felt the same way before starting. The difference between those who create and those who just dream is that some decided to take the first step even without certainty. There is no enlightenment without crossing the dark. Fear is the door. And each time you walk through one, a part of you awakens. Sleep. What comes next is both simple and profound. Sharing. Okay? No transformation is complete until it is shared. The ideas you keep die within you. Those you share multiply. The cycle of creation only closes when what you've learned begins to inspire others. And that is the ultimate purpose of everything discussed here. Transform knowledge into freedom and freedom into legacy. This is the time to act. If any part of this journey touched you, it awakened a new perspective, a memory, a desire, or even a discomfort, don't let it die inside you. Write something. Start a project. Test an idea. Give a name to what's still just a thought. The first step doesn't have to be big. It needs to be real. You don't need to show your face. You don't need to justify yourself. You can start anonymously, silently, but consciously. The important thing is that you begin. And if this content resonated with you, share your experience in the comments, even anonymously. Tell us what you feel, what you discovered, or what you intend to create. Your words could be the impetus someone else needs to change. And if you want to continue this journey of self-knowledge and conscious prosperity, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. This way, you won't miss future videos, and together we can continue expanding consciousness and building freedom inside and out. Like, comment, and subscribe. The change the world awaits can begin with your next creation.